Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Julio Godinez, and welcome to today's DevOps.com webinar, Leveraging Kanban with Distributed Teams, brought to you by Instana. We have a great webinar for you today, but before we get started, I need to go through some housekeeping announcements. Today's event is being recorded, so if you miss any part of the webinar, you will be able to access the recording for on-demand viewing. We will also be sending out a link to access the webinar on demand, or you can visit devops.com/webinars. We want to hear from you, so please feel free to send in your questions at any time throughout the program by using the Q&A tab. We also encourage the use of the chat tab for discussion, so let us know your thoughts or just say a quick hello. Finally, stick around until the end because we are doing a drawing for 4 $25 Amazon gift cards, so stay tuned to see if you're a winner. Joining me today is Henning Troy, Senior Product Manager in Instana, an IBM company, and Daljit Sandhu, Product Manager at Instana. And with that, I'm going to put myself on mute, turn off my camera, and pass the program to Henning.
Thank you, Julio. So, hi, everyone. Before we start with our talk about Kanban, just a quick, short public service announcement. If you haven't heard about it yet, please look into, if you are using Log4j, a very, very popular Java logging library. There was a huge security thing in the last days, and actually also the topic I've been working with my team over the last days. So if you haven't heard about it, haven't taken any action, please do so right after our talk because it's severe. Thanks. So, and with this, maybe just a few words about myself, and then I'll hand it over to my colleague. I'm Henning Troy, Senior Product Manager at Instana. I'm responsible for our agent technology part of the product. And whenever you'd like to reach out, I'm on the Twitter at Henning Troy, as you can see on the slide. And next up is Daljit.
Yeah, thank you, Henning. So hi, everyone. I'm Daljit. Happy to be here. Thank you to be here and listen to us and listen to this webinar. I'm Daljit. I am a product manager at Instana. Started off as a software engineer and just transitioned to this role this year. Yeah, you can see my Twitter handle there. Feel free to shoot me a message anytime. I'm more than happy to connect and talk anytime. With that being said, let me switch over to the agenda. So I'm going to make it very quick. What we want to do today is talk about problems, right? And how we solve those problems at Instana with Kanban, especially problems of a growing distributed team or growing distributed teams. And so this is a very subjective talk, right? We do not want to generalize things. This is us sharing our experiences, our problems, and the solution that worked for us. And we want to give you some hints on maybe if those solutions that work for us could work for you as well. We're going to cover how to find out the right work model, how we introduce Kanban at Instana, driving adoption, right? Change is always difficult to introduce. So how do we do that? The results we have seen so far, challenges, and of course the lessons we have learned so far by introducing Kanban at Instana. With that, let me jump right to the main point, right? Problems of growing distributed teams. So let me, before I continue, let me put a little bit of context in there, right? Let's jump back 2 years back, maybe. Instana was, and still is, a growing company with more and more product areas being introduced every few weeks, few months, right? We have more and more people joining the company, also more and more engineers, more and more tech people. And with that, of course, there's more work, but also more and more bugs that every now and then pop up, right? And this was the same thing 2 years ago. And pre-COVID, we were already a mostly distributed team. And once COVID hit us finally, we went to 100% remote. So maybe some problems started to occur that we did not see before that as well, right? So what we have been doing at that time was something we call now, well, we call it startup mode. What we mean with that is everything has to be done right now, has to be finished. The deadline was yesterday all the time. There's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure because we were a young, growing company, and we wanted to land those deals, right? Wanted to grow as fast as possible, so everything has some certain priority to us. And with that, well, we did not really establish a process, right? So a lot of implicit processes were present at our company, right? And we didn't track work, and we had difficulties finding out what are we actually doing at a given point, right? The end result was unhappy customers, right? And yeah, customers churning due to bad service quality even, right? And not because of missing features. So maybe with this you can relate. Maybe your organizations are having similar problems, and yeah. With that being said, let me jump up right to the first problem. So one thing that we noticed, or that we may not even have noticed at that point, were bottlenecks. And you need to imagine that we have this push system, right? So this is a growing organization with more and more engineers in more and more teams. We have this push system of bugs being pushed to the engineering teams, and then there they are. And of course, as an engineer, you want to make sure that your bugs, or the things you release, you try to keep the number of bugs as low as possible. And what we had at that point, or what we were missing at that point, was a certain clarity on whether or not we should we focus on the bugs that are coming in, which was an increasing amount at that point, or should we focus on feature requests? Should we focus on delivering new features? And depending on the team, this question was answered in different ways, right? So at that point, we did not really know what the bottlenecks were, but we just knew that stuff is taking a bit of time, or maybe even too much time, right? Another problem that some people may not even agree that this is a problem, but at least at one point this was a problem for us, was hero culture. What is hero culture? So this is when single individuals try to take on huge amount of work onto them, because for some reason they know the answers to the problems. This could be because they were maybe early employees, they have the history, they have this inherited knowledge of how things were built in the past and why certain technical depth is existing, right? But at one point, when the pressure is too much, or the work that is being pushed to the team is too much, those individual contributors are just going to, well, run into burnouts, maybe, right? Or they're just trying to do too much work, and not really finding the time to do proper knowledge sharing. So this is a problem that is just being persistent, and it doesn't change, right? And the point, yeah. So for us, we reached a point where this was not something to strive for anymore, right? So this was something that we needed to change. With that, we had a problem of wasted time. So I think everybody knows how quickly it is to lose yourself on Slack into conversations, trying to fix stuff, or trying to communicate asynchronous, and you have these multiple threads open that you try to answer. This happened for us, right? And many people got sidetracked. I think this could be an individual problem, but what we thought, or what we found out later on, was that we had maybe an ecosystem that encouraged, or that facilitated people to slack off, and lose themselves into threads and messages and so on, and customer tickets, right? And there was a lot of distraction. What we didn't have was a system that actually allows people to focus, right? There were a lot of context switches, a lot of things doing at the same time. So all of this costs time and might not even produce the best value. So we saw this as a problem. Resulting, when you waste time, one of the immediate results, and another problem of us, were high cycle times. What are high cycle times? So a cycle time is, just so that we're all on the same page, cycle time is the time you spend on finishing a certain work item. The time starts when you actually start working on it, and the time stops once you actually ship it, right? As long as it's in your backlog, this time doesn't start, right? We don't care. But as soon as you start working on it, and the timer starts ticking, right? And we had very high cycle times because of, well, as I mentioned, we had a lot of context switching, a lot of things being done simultaneously. Everything has high priority. So we had many people, individuals or teams that got a little bit lost in there as well, right? And mainly, well, as I said, due to the loss of focus. Yes, ultimately, this led to a low service quality. We had, as I said, no real process that managed our service quality. We had our hero culture and this implicit knowledge. So our quality was depending on that. And what we also did not have was certain kind of tracking, right? So how do we actually perform work? So it was a very, let's call it binary state. So you either work is done or it's not, right? So it's in progress, let's call it in progress, or it's done, right? So we never really knew where exactly are we with this, what is missing, and where do we may need help. So this was something that directly affected our service quality. And well, with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Henning to talk about choosing the right models and how we might have overcome those problems.
Great, thanks, Daljit. That's the thing. So at one point in time, we needed to think about how to overcome those issues and get into a mode where we have a better process to handle all the different work streams we or the teams face. Maybe to get one thing clear, we are really only talking about engineering teams right now. So this is about all the work our engineering teams need to focus on. And choosing the right work model actually depends on a lot of factors. It's about the size of the team. So like how many engineers are actually there to cope with the workload. It's about how is the team actually affected by bugs and field requests. So is it more internally or is it directly confronted by customers and bugs coming from the outside? Then it's also about cycle times or lead times, as we say. So how long does it take from a fix or from a new feature to be released? For example, when you have a 2-week development cycle and release every 2 weeks, which already is a fast pace, that might even be too slow for some occasions or for some teams, where you need to maybe have, or at least at my team, we either release very quickly ad hoc, like in 4 hours from now, or we release no artifact at all. So it could be that we don't release for 3 weeks because there are no severe things we need to react on, so we can concentrate on feature work. So in the end, what we figured is that different teams actually need different processes and different work models. What I will do here is not a Kanban versus Scrum versus Agile thing, because that's actually not a question to ask. But nonetheless, emphasize the major points of those Agile frameworks and Agile styles of working. Agile in itself, I think we have been, at Instana, at least in the engineering department, have been all the time Agile because we delivered features incrementally already. There were certain feedback loops, as in retrospectives, but here the retrospectives were more into the team. So how did the work feel for the last maybe 2 weeks or for the last 4 weeks? Is there room to improve how we feel we should do our work or organize our work? And of course, all the teams were already self-organized. So there was already a certain degree of autonomy for each team to deliver its artifacts and to deliver its outcome. So that was actually a pretty good starting point to choose a more structured way of working. Scrum is, I guess, the most the most well-known Agile framework you could choose. And for a lot of teams, this is like the go-to model to start with. But it's not a one-size-fits-all. So Scrum is not for every occasion. It's not necessarily the right fit for your team's service profile, I'd say. And service is actually the key word here, but we'll come to that a little bit later. And with Scrum, what you have is actually a fixed set of artifacts, a fixed set of roles. There's like the engineers, there's the Scrum Master, there's a product owner, and also a fixed set of events. So you would do the sprint, you would do the planning and backlog refinement, and retrospectives. All this is described in this framework, and you can apply it to your organization or to your team. But you're pretty much fixed to those artifacts, roles, and events. And the main idea with Scrum is deliver features fast. At least with the sprint length. At the end of the sprint, you're supposed to deliver something. So actually, everything you could deal with during the sprint, you're supposed to deliver. And then Kanban, which obviously is the method we chose, is more of a meta method. So in Kanban, it's not about prescriptive how teams should lay out their work, or how teams should behave. It's really about self-improving. excuse me. It's really about self-improving the process, and the team figuring out what is the best process to actually achieve a good service level. And service here is really seeing the team and what it delivers from the outside. So from a stakeholder point of view, because as a stakeholder, I just want to know when I put in a work item, which might be a bug, which might be a feature, how long does it take when it comes out of the team, and which quality does it have? That's the only thing the outside is interested in. And that's actually what we then try to focus on at Instana in the engineering teams. See ourselves as a team delivering a service, and then try to repeatedly increase this service quality. In Kanban, it's all about visualizing the process and the progress you make. And in our case, it was very important to find a balance between demand and capacity. Because as Daljit mentioned, coming out of the startup model, but getting more and more customers, luckily, we couldn't grow the teams as fast as the customer base grew. So demand grew or increased faster than our capacity. So at one point in time, we needed to balance this and come from this push method Daljit described. So like, hey, here's a new field request, which is our like terminology for a bug or a question customers might have. Please, engineering department, please solve it now, because it just appeared now. Coming to a pull model where we as an engineering department can decide, okay, so now is the right time to pick the next item and start working on it. In Kanban, there are like 4 main principles, at least how we use Kanban now at Instana. As mentioned, there is the workflow visualization. So really having a way to see how much work is there at all, how much work is in progress right now, and in which state are all the different work items, and how close are we to deliver stuff and actually pull stuff to done. And we do this on the Kanban board. And we have examples for Kanban boards later in the talk. Then there is the work in progress, which is the amount of work items in progress, so in development, in testing, in review when it comes to pull requests, for example, that are in progress at any given time. And one feature you could apply when using Kanban is to limit this work in progress, and really to like in contrast to this push model where you have everything up in the air which comes from the outside, you will just focus on the stuff which you pull into progress right now. And by limiting the amount of work items, the idea is to reduce context switches, reduce waste, and improve cycle times. Which brings us to focusing on flow, actually, and I already mentioned it. We measure the cycle times for work items. So in the end, we can, like in retrospectives, we can look at the cycle times of certain work items and see, did we improve? Can we do something to maybe improve cycle times? Why did it take long? And this is not like a personal thing. So it's not, hey, Dalji, why did this work item took 5 days? It's more, hey, team, there's a work item that took 5 days. Let's have a look why. And can we maybe reduce the cycle time? Can we maybe improve our service quality? Make the customer happy in the end? That's the whole idea. And then to close the feedback loop, there's this continuous improvement which we do over service delivery reviews. So like from time to time, just as a retrospective you would do in a Scrum team, we would look at our board and the analytics of our board and really try to see, so where are the bottlenecks, where are the wait times, where is room to improve our service quality, so that consumers from the outside, and like consumers as from a the service our team provides, really feel that there is improvement. And one more words about the Kanban principles. During the whole process, so when the process starts, it could really be like one thing which is in progress. Yeah, we know there's work, we know it needs to be done, and that's where we start. We just do it. So work is in progress. But as we improve and as we discover what our service actually is, we refine this process and the model of this process and understand even better what our service actually is made of. So what are the steps? What are the parts? And yeah, I mentioned the service delivery review, where we try to improve the service quality. And one very, very critical thing is that all of this transformation needs support from management. And we were in the lucky state that actually management triggered this transformation from, well, let's say, agile chaos process to a more mature, self-improving process that we have right now. And it's critical to have this management support, because while discovering what your service really is, while discovering how to improve the service quality, teams will do experiments and conduct experiments and really like try new ways to organize work. For example, put on a WIP limit, which says, well, we are a team of 4 engineers. Let's not have more than 3 bugs in progress at any given time, which means all the rest of the field requests and bugs will not be worked on right now. So you need management to protect the team when it conducts such experiments. This is a very critical thing. And with this, I hope, basic foundation into Kanban, I hand it over back to Daljit to talk about how we did it actually at Instana.
Yes, thank you, Henning. All right, so introducing Kanban. Let me just go to the next slide. All right, so this is basically the most, well, basic Kanban board you can actually have, right? So you have a set of cards in backlog, some in progress, and then you slide them over to done once they are actually shipped, or whatever your definition of done is, right? And as Henning mentioned, you could theoretically add work in progress limits and therefore limit the amount of cards that could be, for example, in the in progress lane overall. So column, right? So you don't allow the team to work on more than 2 items at the same time. And so this is what I at least what I had difficulties with at the beginning was actually finding out those limits, right? So the cool thing, at least in my opinion, the cool thing about all of this is that you reflect more on your personal as well as your team's work, and you try to find out what are those limits, right? Are we actually able to do seven cards at the same time, or 6 cards, whatever, right? And you also try to what you also start doing is slicing your work in way better portions. Not having, it doesn't make any sense if you have like one huge feature as one card, or like as one story, right? And then put it into progress, because then it's going to block the lane for a long time since it's a huge feature. So, but it allowed us more to think about our stories, split them up way better, and it encouraged us actually to, what is the mantra? To start finishing and stop starting, right? Because this is, at the end of the day, that's the mantra of Kanban, right? And that's the one that we pushed for. And yes, so as I said, this is the most basic version of a Kanban board. You could go ahead and, for example, right, just for the sake of the examples here, add another column, say in review, right? So then well, we have this in progress column now, and this is limited. Let's say we have a limit of 4 cards in there as a maximum, and then you have an in review column there, which has a separate limit, right? So you maybe could say, all right, we only want 2 things to be there in total, right? So you can always have 4 in progress and 2 in review, but then you would, at one point, you realize, all right, cool. I have too much in review. I actually need to review those items, right? Maybe QA them, whatever, and actually make sure that those work items are being pushed to the next stage, which is in this case being done and being shipped, right? So what I always find pretty cool is that you can really tailor this to your team's specific needs. And what I really want to emphasize here is that our teams do not, I don't think, maybe there are a few teams that have similar boards, but I think every board of every team in its way is kind of unique. So they have their own limits, they have their own columns, right? If for example, the team I work at releases in a different pace than Henning's team, so our boards look way more different, right? And yes, and I like the individualness, or the individualness, I don't know, for each team. And what you also finally get to see now is your process and your flow. So it's more visible, so actually see where cards are at the current moment, and it allows you to do way better way better knowledge sharing, and include people into certain tasks way earlier, and this whole thing visualizes it again, which I find very cool, because it just reiterates on what you're doing, and you don't have to leave it all in your head, right? It's there for everyone to see. Let me give you an almost, let's not say extreme example, but a more, let's call it, more complex example, right? So this is actually a screenshot of one of our team's board. And let's start at the bottom. You can see backlog, in progress, done, right? In blue, orange, and green. So the backlog is, right, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, is the backlog. We see the progress lane, which is in orange, which is also the progress lane is the lane where we actually measure the cycle times. So how long does it take for a task to start in, in progress in the analysis section to actually head over to delivered, right? So how long does it take? That's how we measure cycle times. And what this allows the team as well is to identify where are those bottlenecks at the end of the day, right? You could see, you could already get a feeling for cards. I don't know, in this example, you would know, all right, so a lot of cards spend a lot of time in this verifying step in QA, right? So you already have the feeling that you somehow have a bottleneck in QA because things just take a lot of time, right? We are done in 2 days implementing something and it takes 5 days to be QA'd. So you already know, okay, something might be fishy. I don't know, something is wrong, or maybe we are doing something wrong at some place, right? And so what we have here is a way finer grained process modeling, which for some people might be intimidating, but for other teams this is perfect because they like to have that detail in there. For example, my board does not look like that. It's way, I think, simpler because that's just how our team likes it more, and I think it works for us pretty well. And again, this is something I really want to emphasize because I think at Instana, right, when you introduce change, you have people fearing these kind of boards as well, because they would say, well, this is way too complicated. I just want to do my work and not get, I don't want to spend too much time in there. But right, so you should always remember that every team can actually decide on their board and right, well, design it the way they want. Just a quick overview. So you see the work in progress limit in those columns, right? So I think analysis has a work in progress limit of 3, and development has one of 2 or 3, I think. I don't know, but if you continue the same lane, you could see that each step has a work in progress limit. This is something you could do, right? So you then sit there and think more about each and every step of your delivery process. I think what my team has, we have a work in progress limit for the whole in progress section, meaning we only allow 5 cards in this whole in progress section. Doesn't matter if all 5 of them are in QA or in development, but it's rather a whole service, a service limit, right? And again, this is something each and every team has to decide on their own. We did the one that you are seeing right now. We did that as well before. Then we switched because we just felt it's better. And this is the whole reason why we have those flow reviews that Henning mentioned earlier, right? So this is when we actually sit down together with our engineering managers and try to find out where are we doing well, where aren't we doing well, what could we change, right? And for another point, the last point for this is that the fact that this team models their board like this is the advantage is that their process is very clear, not only to the people who are working in this team, but also even for me, if I check out what they are doing right now, or for new hires, which makes it way easier for them to actually start work and not be, I don't know, intimidated by the I don't know, by the randomness, almost. Let's call it randomness, right? So this is you have a way better way to reproduce your quality, and new hires can just go through these stages, which will allow them even to just start working and not be too bothered too much by different stages, basically, right? Yeah, that is it for this. What I also want to show here was that each and every team, right, has their own board and their own policies, and they all work in somehow an autonomous way, and they're not being bothered by other distracting effects, right? We do have one global, let's call it global instance, that they triage field requests, right? As we said, field requests are what we call bugs. They triage them by team. So, all right, so this in this team takes care of this and this bug, or this is the bug in this product area, which belongs to this team. And then they will be automatically added via a workflow into the respective board, and they just pop up there. And for the team, it's now just a pull mechanism, right? Whenever you have time, you can pull that bug and see, all right, okay, the work in progress limit allows me to work on this. Let's just do it. And you could even go a step further and now introduce algorithms that automatically prioritize those bugs, right? And at the end of the day, well, what if you are, I think the more mature you are, the less you think about what you want to pull next, because once you have this algorithm of prioritization, you can always just pull the topmost card and say, well, this is the one with the highest high priority. My work in progress limit allows it. Let me just pull this. So what I like about it is that it's at some point it will be a no-brainer. You can just pull and do your work without thinking too much about it and without having to, well, think, is this actually the right thing that I'm working on? Because if you are in the structure of your own defined process, it's way easier, right? Yeah. From there on, I'm going to head it over to Henning to talk about driving adoption and how we increased adoption of Kanban.
Yes, thanks. Because the thing is, when introducing a new model like this, like a new working model, actually what you want your teams to do is to pick it up from an intrinsic motivation, and see the value from the team or from within the teams itself. Also the like the self-optimization and the refinement of the process. This all should be driven by the teams itself. There's always help from engineering management at Instana. So, for example, those service delivery reviews we talked about, those will be facilitated by engineering management. But the outcome and the change for the process should be, and at Instana it's like this, so it should be really coming from the team, from within the team. And really the team needs to feel real pain to actually do the change. And this is more or less just repeated what we or the pain points we saw. But maybe one anecdote here. Why coming to this Kanban model and limiting work in progress is actually a good thing? Because when this all started, when management made the proposal to introduce Kanban and to model the process on those Kanban boards, a lot of teams reacted with like, well, we have 20 things up in the air. How are we supposed to deal with a new flow like this? And then management told us, well, please just drop all those stuff. You don't have to have 20 things up in the air. We will have your back. So we will protect the team. Just concentrate on 2 of those 20 things, and try to model those 2 things as work items on your Kanban board, and the rest will go to the backlog, and we will concentrate on those later. And with this, you regain wasted time and can incorporate and reuse this regained time to optimize your process, to actually start focusing on the things that matter most. And as Daljit mentioned, with this pull system, those new field requests and bugs, they land into your backlog, but they don't accumulate cycle time when laying in the backlog. So they can just like sit there waiting for your work in progress limits to free up again. And as long as you have work in progress and the limits are, all your columns and lanes are completely full because everybody's working on stuff, those will sit there. Other departments will take care of communicating to the customer. That's at least how we do it. So as long as engineering did not start working on an item, it's still on customer support to communicate to the customer. So there's actually no pressure to do it right now or to begin fast tackling the next issue. This is really focusing on getting things done. So whenever there is no free item or no free space for a new item, finish one of the items that is in progress first. One other thing we did to drive adoption is to introduce our Kanban community of practice. That's a group of people meeting every 2 weeks, I guess, for an hour or 1.5 hours. And yeah, so the greatest thing is actually to have honest rants about how work feels, how Kanban feels, how experiments work out. And we try to have like one engineer or even product managers, but mostly engineers from every team in this community. And this is also to like talk about new experiments, learning from the other teams, because like nobody, as we started with this, had any idea about Kanban. So maybe, yeah, so you've heard the term. You knew it is about limiting work in progress, but that's all. But in this community of practice, it's about learning from each other, talking about each other's experiments and see how things work out for other teams and improving the overall process. And when other teams present interesting experiments, like it's a good way for your own team to pick up stuff that you might or think might work for your team too. So this really helped driving adoption and like really emphasis in the teams that there are experiments to make to improve the service quality over time. And now we present some of the results we achieved with this. Heading over back to Daljit.
Thank you. Well, this is a pretty simple one, but I love the simplicity behind it, so that's why I really wanted to show that. What we have, the tooling we have for our digital Kanban board actually allows us to see how much time each card spends in each column, right? So you could, for example, see, all right, we have this in progress 2 days, 4 days like each, and this is actually the example I mentioned before, but now just visualized. You see, well, we have this 2 cards in review that are now in there for 12 days or 9 days, and it's just way easier with that to identify these bottlenecks. What you could also have limits for each column on how much time a card could spend in there as a maximum, and then you would get, maybe notified or like get a little alert saying, hey, this card is actually in there since 8 days, or it has reached your limit. And you could have internal service level objectives, right? And say, all right, each card we want to review, once it reaches the stage of being in review, we want to get done with it in 2 days. So a card can only live in this in review stage for 2 days and not more. And this will kind of force you to actually focus on finishing stuff, right? On moving cards from one column to the next. And what we also have, the tooling that we use allows us to draw these diagrams. I'm not going to go too much into detail here, but what you see here is on the x-axis a time range, and on the y-axis the circle time, right? And each dot in there represents one of the card you saw in the examples before. And what you could see, maybe in one of your flow reviews, you could always sit down and say, all right, let me check out only the cards that are in the 85th percentile or above, right? And show me, like, why did they take 14 days or 17 or 18 days? And you could talk about them and then try to have shorter feedback loops and see, all right, actually this card took 18 days. It spent 2 days in development and 16 days in QA, right? So then it's easier to figure out where those bottlenecks are, and it's easier to actually derive actions from these reviews. And I mean, one of the immediate actions could be to go to the next engineering management person and say, hey, we need to hire more people in QA, or I don't know. Right. What we also have in place is a lot of automation, right? So you already saw the triaging of those tickets, right? That when engineering management triages them, they arrive into the respective boards. What we also have is, for example, a Slack bot that gets triggered whenever our QA department actually creates a card and tags a team in there. For example, in this case, it would be the team, so-called the team agent. Once they do this, it triggers I think the technical stuff behind it triggers a Lambda, so a cloud function, and a instant message is being put into Slack, tagging the respective team, showing the card and a message, and just, hey, acknowledge this whenever you have a look. But you don't need to chase this work anymore, or you don't need to duplicate everything. It's just one, let's call it institution, in this case QA, that creates the card, and the card is being pushed to the respective teams, and you don't have to worry about chasing those tickets, right? And for me, at least, it saves a lot of time and in cross-department communication. You could take any combination of departments in here, right? And there's always a lot of potential to automate things. Right. So
Daljeet, you are okay with me taking over this one?
yes, of course. Sorry.
Because I think I did some last-minute changes, and that would be like pretty unfair.
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So one of the really main things we try to achieve with moving to this Kanbanized model is like having a reproducible service quality. I think we mentioned it here and there during the talk, but this is about modeling the process so that it's clear what to do. There could be new colleagues joining, and it's already described by the Kanban board what are the steps to provide the service this team is responsible for. By applying those VIP limits, we achieve to focus. By focus, we achieve better quality. There is, at least for Instana and for our engineering teams, there is a constant velocity, and this is not about like squeezing the best performance out of the team, delivering stuff faster. This is about sustaining a high level of service quality. That's the main focus we have here. And again, or not again, but by having this pull model, it's about applying back pressure to the upstream stakeholders. So when there's like too many field requests coming in, the engineering teams will just work on what they can work on and what the VIP limit allows. So applying back pressure then again to, for example, the support team, and have them handle the customer communication. By improving this flow, we improve also the outcome due to a higher quality again. The detailed process modeling, as mentioned, is like super critical when onboarding new people. And as I stated here at the bottom, the service quality then becomes independent from people. So hero culture, yes, maybe, but we have it all like modeled in great detail, and it's independent from people and also emotions. So like everybody is aware of the process, and it's okay to push back. It's okay not to start on any given ticket at any time. And we see this really because the rate of incoming field requests decreased over time. So like really increasing the quality in the end, resulting in happier customers. And here's some like a marketing slide for how's Kanban working for us. We have right now over 40 teams and boards created. It's not only boards for the specific engineering teams, but also for engineering management. There are cross-team boards, and this works really well for us. As you see, over 25,000 cards created already, and with over 100 retros, which is for us the service delivery review, a lot of improvement already happened. Of course, this is not all like shiny and pretty and nice. There are some critics about it, but most of this is like a cultural thing, I'd say. As we mentioned, we have the software tool which is called Kanbanize. This is modeling all of our Kanban boards, and of course, there's the risk of micromanagement. We have the cycle times on each task. For engineer management, it's pretty clear who is doing what. So in the end, when there's a toxic culture, it could come down to micromanagement. Sometimes board policies can be too complicated and confusing. So that's also a thing for experiments. So you might dial back on this even. And when introducing this to the engineering department, that's pretty much a local optimization. So the real value in Kanban is when applying it to the whole organization. But that's, I think, a different talk. And then at the end, it will not solve your cultural or management issues. So when management doesn't have your back and doesn't protect the teams, then like it's really hard to introduce Kanban just for your team, just like in a very small environment. So yeah, those are the parameters around you that need to fit. And lessons learned would be, I guess, the last one before we come to Q&A. This one's taken by Daljit.
Yeah, let me just quickly run through because I want to leave enough time for questions. Getting people excited for change is very difficult, right? You saw those Kanbanized boards, they could be intimidating. Sometimes people don't like to change, a running system. And I think what is needed is some sort of leadership that paves the way and gives guidance to teams that need it, right? And not in a as Henning said, in a micromanagement fashion, but rather in a fashion to say, hey, let me help you to be better, or let me help you to make this product better. Because at the end of the day, we all work at the same company, and our goal is to build a great product and maintain a great culture, right? Also, overcomplicating processes results into dissatisfaction. This is so my favorite example was I had a very small task, and actually, creating the card and moving it around each stage took me longer than actually finishing the task, right? So this is something that when people start saying, wait, I thought we are supposed to save time. And I think the best thing that helped us is to always have an open communication. There are always exceptions, right? We don't track every little bit of piece of work in those Kanban boards, right? Because this is at one point this would just not be feasible anymore. But it always comes down to the culture of a company and to at least give people the stage to talk about those problems, right? You could always go to those Kanban community problems and meetings and say, hey, I hate Kanban. I don't think this works at all. Let's talk, right? This is always a possibility. This is nothing that is forbidden and is even encouraged to have these open discussions. Lastly, Kanban does not solve your culture and management issues. I can only emphasize that, right? Introducing a tool won't make your product great, or it won't solve every little bit of problem that you might have, or it won't create a culture of, well, I don't know, wholesomeness or appreciation and all that, and kindness, right? I think there are prerequisites that just need to be there in order for this to work. We were very lucky. We had a great team, a great culture where all of this was always encouraged. But I think, yeah, this does not. I would not try to adapt Kanban in the hope of changing everything that there is. Right? It has a clear purpose of increasing service quality and reducing the amount of time you might waste on tasks that you don't even need. But it is not there to make your company the best in terms of culture. This is something that has to come from within, anyways, and not a tool cannot provide that. And with that being said, I would like to go over to Q&A and check out the questions we have.
I do want to remind everybody that if you have a question, you can go ahead and submit that right now, and just by going to the Q&A tab. First question. There could be cases where an incoming field request is a high priority and needs to be picked up immediately for resolution. In such cases, would it be meaningful to stop an in-progress item and instead start working on the new incoming field request? Or is it better to wait until the next available pull by the team to sort out the high priority item?
That's a fantastic question. Actually, I talked about this back pressure to our support team. So they are like the first line of support when it comes to handling those field requests. And what we allow for every engineering team is to handle one expedited ticket, which is really the high priority field request, which needs to be solved right now or kittens will die. So we allow this for every team, but it's not on the teams to decide which part or which ticket this is. It's on the support team and on the technical account managers and like on the stakeholders of our service as an engineering team to decide what's the most critical thing and is it really that critical, and then we would deal with it right away. So when there is an expedited ticket coming in, we would really like drop everything on the floor, directly start working on it, and then as an engineering team, we expect on the other side, the stakeholder that's requesting this expedited ticket is also available and responsive, because we want to work on this thing right now and resolve it like within the next few minutes, hours, but as fast as possible. So excellent question.
Okay. Looks like we have time for maybe one more. What tools does Instana use?
So for Kanban itself, for those digital boards and the screenshots you saw, we use a software called Kanbanize. We do have other tools, for example, Slack, right? And or we use Zendesk for customer communication, and all of those are somehow interconnected, either with, I think, don't let me lie, Zapier integrations, or integrations that most of the time we even build by hand, because, well, we have a very tailor-made solution, right? So all of the automations are, most of the automations are built by hand and then deployed on, I don't know, you could use AWS Lambdas or Google Cloud Functions or even host it yourself. But the main tools are Kanban and Zendesk to make all of this work. So internal and external communication.
I put it in the public chat also.
Excellent. Thank you. Unfortunately, we are just about out of time. So I do want to remind everybody that today's webinar has been recorded. So if you missed any or all of the webinar, you will be able to watch it again. We will be sending out an email with the link to access the webinar on demand, and you can also find it on devops.com. Just look in the on-demand section in the webinars page, and you will find it there. Quickly to announce the 4 Amazon gift card winners for today. Our first winner is Brad Y. Congratulations, Brad. Our second winner is Bernard A. Our third winner is Chris M. And our fourth and final winner is Alicia C. So congratulations to all our winners. We'll be reaching out to you via email with instructions for claiming your Amazon gift card. So please check your inbox. And if you don't see it there, check your spam folder. Henning and Daljit, thank you so much for taking the time to put this presentation together and for giving us an hour of your time. It was very comprehensive, 55, 56 minutes of just great content. We all appreciate it, I'm sure.
Thank you, Julio. Thanks all for being here. Nice.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Of course. I would also like to thank the audience for their time and engagement. This is Julio Godinez signing off until next time. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.